Old soul, young world.
But when it's of true positive nature and manifestation,
Old souls, young souls, and all my damn souls in between.
search deeper, dive deeper, and be like, yo,
Old soul, young world.
Old souls, young souls, and all my damn souls in between. Welcome back to Old Soul Young World with your host, Jessie Elly. Ooh, it is lit, it is poppin'. We have a very special guest on the show this week, a Salem native, a female artist who is hip-hop, spoken word, R&B, everything in between. Y'all are gonna have to find out. Welcome to the show, the one, the only, Solmaria. What's poppin'? Hey. How you doing, girl? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
For sure. Can I fill your cup for you? Get the vibes rolling?
Let's get it.
You already know.
Thank you, love.
Yes. I'm vibing with your outfit today.
Oh,
Killing it.
Likewise, we both, we're feeling the blue,
Feeling the energy.
Even
Oh my gosh, we both have a band. What's your band say?
this is from the Summer Jam last year that you hosted.
Wait,
Remember?
you were at the
I
same Summer
was.
Jam?
Yeah.
Hold on. I forgot about that. Girl,
do a lot.
life be so busy sometimes. I'm like,
Thank
I
you.
know I met her somewhere. And yeah, so yeah.
Ooh, there it is.
And you know, we love that. Shout out Salem Summer Jam.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, it's always a vibe. I did, let's see. I think the first time I did Summer Jam was with the band I used to play with a couple years back. So
Dope.
yeah, it was good to go back, after COVID and everything and see everybody and
Yes.
pull up for the community.
It was so lit.
Yeah.
There's so many people turn out for that. Yeah.
It was awesome.
For sure. But so I'll let you kind of take it away. Could you let the people know? I know you said you're from Salem, born and raised, baby. But what you represent, what you do, who the hell you are.
Cheers. First
Cheers to that.
Hey. So yeah,
Some good stuff, right?
good choice.
Hey. Ooh.
I've had champagne before, but not like this.
Oh yeah, we go high end.
Hey, gang. That's how we do on
Facts.
But I love it. Yeah, so as you said, I'm from Salem, born and raised. I went to all Salem public schools.
Let's go.
Yeah, I grew up so I won't say every school I went to because that's how,
That's cool.
cyber criminals get your data.
I feels you.
Yep, stop giving out your security questions, guys. For real.
So true.
What was your first pet? But anyways, yeah, so it was definitely, I spent a lot of time in Lynn. People sometimes mistakenly think that I'm from Lynn. I'm not. I have mad love for Lynn, though.
Feel that.
Lynn is like my second home, pretty much. I grew up in the church from the age of 4 to like 25 is when I really fully left. And the churches that I attended were in Lynn, so there was about anywhere from 3 to 5 services a week.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's a lot.
we would go on Sundays. There was this, we used to have 2 services a day. We would have the Bible school in the mornings, and we'd have the evening service. So basically it would be get ready super early in the morning, run around, go to Bible school, and then we would usually stay in Lynn, hang out at, someone's house, one of the brothers or sisters from church.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in Lynn. I got to know the area, shout out Essex Street.
Hey, shout out.
Hey, and Union and everything. And yeah, I got mad love for Lynn. And, in church is really where I started to develop my love for music. Because, we always had a live band, live musicians.
For sure.
My sister's an amazing musician. She started out on the drums, and she basically can play anything she touches.
Wow.
So
That's really cool.
she's really gifted with the music as well. And I started singing. I started writing my own songs. First it was about God and that sort of thing, because that was the only music I was allowed to listen to. I wasn't allowed to listen to anything that wasn't gospel or you know, in the hymn book.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
You've come a long way. You
Very
really
much so, yeah.
360 or 180, people say.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely different than, you know, but I learned a lot. I took a lot of good from that experience, despite the other stuff that went down in that space. But yeah, that's where my love for music first started. And I just, you know, I always came back to that in like my most, like the darkest times. And,
sure.
you know, those moments where I was just like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this thing? Or,
Yeah.
you know, and even those happy moments too, right? Those uplifting songs.
Go back to your roots.
Yeah, going back to those roots of like, you know, let's make these people feel good on a Sunday morning. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And even though I feel like you still do make these people feel good and you be vibing, jamming, you're cheers to that, girl. You know, I categorize you as just a multifaceted artist because literally, you know, if you listen to, you know, songs you put out, it could be singing / a little bit of bilingual as well. Then you can go into the ciphers where you're like freestyling, and then it's kind of more like R&B type vibes. What do you categorize yourself as now that you're like not producing through church and more producing through, and I think you are an independent artist, but you can also jump in on if you're not. But what do you categorize yourself as now?
As far as like genre or
yeah.
Oh, that's a great question. I love that question. I had this discussion with shout out to Nick DeSimone from Peabody TV. They ran Yes Fest.
Yeah, let's go.
Which is awesome. Which I really had fun with that.
That's dope.
I was blessed to have a say in curating that, which was really awesome. And I told Nick, I was like, we gotta get Justin Clancy on this show. So that was really awesome. He was able to pull up to that. But you know, I'm running on a tangent now because your question.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, I get excited. I'm just like, oh. But really, I had this conversation with him. I think I'm more like multi-genre. I don't like to limit myself to, but I have to shout out, you know, I have to give credit where credit's due. I think hip hop has had a big influence on me.
Hip hop saved my life, so I feel you.
Right?
Yeah.
For real. I think the first time I interacted with, and not listened to, interacted with a Wu-Tang CD. Sorry, Mom. My mom saw it. She's very religious. And my brother, it was in my brother's room, and it was a whole situation, but I didn't know what she was doing, but essentially she put it in the freezer, took it out of the freezer, took it out to the backyard. I'm like peeking around the corner, like, what is she doing? She takes it outside and basically just like shatters it to pieces, right? And I'm like, whoa. If something that, you know, had that much of an impact, or is that like bothered you so much, I was just so curious about like what is on that CD.
It shows the power of music. You know what I mean? Like it can really be so life-changing that it's like this could, like, it could scare a mother, like this is a weapon, this could change my child, but to us it's like this is fuel for our mental creativity, you know. And I just want to, sorry, you said something, you said not the first time I listened to hip-hop, the first time I interacted with hip-hop. I've never heard somebody speak about hip-hop like that or say that, like what do you mean interacted more so?
I was at the time probably like 9, maybe 10 years old. I don't remember my exact age. I remember I wasn't a teenager yet. I was still like little, but I didn't really get to listen to any hip hop songs, or, you know, it was very much like I didn't go to anybody's house, or like it was like I went to school, went home, went to church. That was it. I grew up Pentecostal Christian, and so it was very strict, you know, and especially like single parent household, you know, is like there's like a lot of like in general, just because of the space, right, there was a lot of fear. And then add that on top of like, you know, single mom, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this with these kids? And, you know, so I understand where my mom was coming from as far as like trying to keep us safe, trying to keep us from getting into any type of trouble. But it was very like sheltered. I didn't get to really listen to any hip hop till years later, I was like in high school, I think, the first time I got to really listen to any like secular music, you know, anything that wasn't gospel. That was like the first, it was the first time that I think I was like a freshman in high school.
That's beautiful,
Yeah.
though, that you developed a love for it so quickly
Yeah.
to the point where, like, you made it your own, and, like, hip-hop is now you, like, in its own way.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, your transition, like, you're speaking a lot about, church and your upbringing there and kind of, like, how that played into making you who you are. And, me, myself, knowing what it's like going to a very religious church or having, a period where mine wasn't as consuming as yours, I feel like. But I had moments in time where I did feel stuck in this mindset of like a lot being put on me. And I didn't feel like I could curate my own creativity at that time because it was more like being told what you should be or what to do or how to do it. I feel like you resonate with that a little.
I got chills.
Could you touch upon that in your perspective, like how you moved from that mindset and being so limited in music to now being you're so free. I feel like with your voice, with your vocals, with your freestyles, with your self-expression, that transition from church to authentic Solmaria.
Yeah. Oh man. So, it was definitely a bit of a journey. I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer this without.
I know it's a long.
It is a very long.
We have long
answer,
journeys
but
leading up to who we are.
We do.
So.
We really do. Everything happens. I feel like it happens in like phases and segments and like part A, B,
For sure.
section C.
Like, what chapter of the book was that? Let me flip back there.
This glossary going real quick. Yeah, no, and it's I think so. Because I grew up in the church, there was a certain set of principles and teachings that we were supposed to adhere by. I now understand that essentially I was brainwashed because it is what it is.
Yeah.
I just call it like I see it at this point.
Yeah. Speak your truth,
And yeah, factual.
For sure.
Know? And I was probably, because, growing up I was taught, the measure of success is if, you gotta get married, have kids, whatever, start a family, be fruitful, multiply, et cetera, et cetera. And then the big underlying thing was like, Christ is coming back soon, like the whole, like, the rapture and everything. So again, going back, like, to the whole, like, living in fear, right? Yeah. I lived in fear the majority of my life.
Wow.
So that was, it kept me sort of in this box to where, like, I have to do things this way, X, Y, Z, because then if not, like, I'm not worthy enough of God or, like, of salvation or anything good, which is all a lie, I just, and I have my own set of beliefs now. I still believe in a higher power and everything, but, it's more like in a spiritual sense, right? And yeah, so I just feel like, anyway, that's that. But moving on to, like, how I got away from that was really, I ended up getting married at 22.
Okay.
I had children right away because that's what, the ex-husband
The
now.
expectation.
Yeah, the expectation and the ex-husband. Which,
yeah, right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good wordplay there.
I love it. I love wordplay. And yeah, it was just like, I realized, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be in this relationship. I don't want to be in this space where I just feel like I'm trapped. I can't really, and up until that point, because I had a full tuition scholarship to Gordon College.
Wow.
Straight out of high school. And I was going through a lot between, this, like, my mom had lost her job, and then I had this, like my own personal issues with, I was still expected, even though I was living on campus, I was still expected to come back every weekend and go to church every, whenever we had service, essentially, right? And at some point I was like, you know what? I ended up, dropping out. I decided to I got married, ended up getting married from 19 to 22 was just like a little section of like, oh, this is my life plan now. I'm just gonna get married and have a family.
Yeah.
Why not? Whatever.
Well, and you've been told for so many years that that's what was supposed to happen.
Exactly.
Not more like, oh, you have a choice to find out who you are or be, you know, it was more, this is what the plan is.
Right.
And you felt like you were fitting into that.
Right. And it's, you know, we had people that were like, oh, college and your education and this and that, but it was not as, I feel like I wish that I mean, hindsight's 20/20, right? It's wish and want, whatever, coulda, shoulda, woulda. But it would have been more, that's why now in my own, like with my children, I'm like, screw that. Like, love, relationships, whatever, you can do that later.
Right.
Like, career, education, something, like do something, even your art, whatever. Like, do what you enjoy, make sure you're set. You know what I mean? Have a plan and then have a plan B.
For sure.
So that, you know, when you go out into the world and things do happen, right, that are unexpected, you at least have something to fall back on, right? So yeah, that's essentially what was like fed to me. And so I went along with that. So like 22, and then by the time I was 25, I was like, whoa, nope, I don't want this, you know?
And was it like, I mean, sorry to cut you off, but like, was it like a flick of a switch? Like you woke up one day and you just felt so like overwhelmed and trapped. You're like, I need to change. Or was there like a person who was like, hey, you don't have to do this, or like a soul thing where you were just like, your soul felt trapped?
I think it was my soul for sure. And what triggered that actually is, trigger warning for, we're going to get into like the domestic violence.
Yeah, please.
So my ex-husband was very abusive, like verbally, physically. The first time he put his hands on me, I was actually pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and when I was pregnant, we were still very much active in the church. And that's when I think the switch flipped. Was not even when he put his hands on me, was when the youth pastor basically at the time came over with his wife. And they were like, oh, yeah, you guys should just work it out. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Like, excuse me?
What if he kills me? Like,
right.
you know,
Yes.
like, God forbid. And I'm grateful I'm still here. But it's just like
For sure.
me knowing as, you know, and growing up in Salem, shout out to Hawk, which
Shout
is
out.
an amazing organization,
For sure.
Healing Abuse, Working for Change. At the time, I think it was helping abused women and children.
Yes.
So like I was already familiar with that organization and its work, and you know I knew what domestic violence was. I had never thought that I'd end up in that situation.
Right.
And the fact that I did, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing this. And it took some time between that point and it was a couple of years before I fully left that situation. But like got a divorce and everything, the whole nine. But I was just like, whoa, like if this is where my life is headed, like I am all set. Like I don't want that.
And
I don't want any of this.
I'm sorry, you're just so strong, because for somebody to go through that, a lot of people, they'll get in that situation and they feel inclined to stay because of the children, because of the expectation, because of what church, family, whatever it may be. If, people listening in, they can hear you say, yeah, it took me a few years to get out of that situation. When you're the one living day by day, having to figure out literally, okay, how do I make the next move for me? How do I keep my kids safe? How do I keep myself safe? Right. And embrace your authentic personal self without losing your mind, without losing who you are. It's such a huge feat. Like, I just want to give you a shout out, congratulations. Like, it is not easy and not everybody gets out. So seriously, thank you for even like putting that on the table. And if anyone's listening in who's in a similar situation like Hawk, there's programs out there, resources. Like, you do not have to suffer. You don't have to, keep living in that situation. And, thank you for being an example for many that might feel how you were.
I'll see it on, and it's just unfortunate too, because like this day and age with the court of public opinion on social media, there's
don't even get me started.
some young girl actually recently, I won't get into details, but like that, unfortunately the girl lost her life, but you know, you read about that and then you see the comments like, oh, well, you know, and it's like the whole like victim blaming concept.
Right.
It's like you have no idea.
No.
Like, unless you've lived it, you have no idea.
100%.
Like,
yeah.
It's just, I can't even,
Yeah.
you know, it's a little frustrating to read those things and just be like, and again, I was fortunate enough to get out of it. I actually, you know, I lost a job over that. I was too ashamed to even like come forward because we weren't working together at the time, but at one point I worked at Lintech for a period of time, and the director at that school, she was firing everybody. Everybody was getting
left and right.
Left and right. She's like, no. Like everybody was catching smoke, and I had sort of disappeared for a couple of days, and they were like, oh, you didn't
Follow
show up to
protocol.
work and call in and this and that, and it was just like I didn't even know how to like articulate at that point. And it was just, you know what, I ended up just
stepping back.
I stepped back and I was like, you know, I don't even want to be here because it's, you know, those memories sometimes are tied into, you know, at the time, like now I can go, like I could probably walk around tech now and like no sweat, not have an issue. But at the time it was very triggering.
And it was attached to that fear concept, you know, that you mentioned and you brought up, and I think...
so I didn't even fight it. I was like, fire me, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Because, like, living in fear, not being who you are, I think is one of the greatest deaths you can have of a soul. Because you're alive, but you feel dead inside, and you feel like you're almost living in someone else's universe. In a way, even whether that could relate to like the church in whole or a physical individual that you're in a relationship with. And you know, from that moment, since you've stepped away and you got, you know, that separation from both the church and that relationship, when do you remember finding Solmaria, the singer, the artist, the freestyler, was that also a couple-year transition for you, or was there something within you where you're like, this is what I need to do with this voice that I was given?
So I would say around, let me think back now, I want to say 2012, 2013. You remember like rec shop movement?
Dude, I was a part of rec shop.
You see? So you hip.
You already know.
Yeah, so I gotta give props to rec shop movement.
Wait, so we met like back in the day. Damn, we're just like rekindling this energy. Wow.
I was very inspired by all of the work that they were doing there, and then I didn't really, how do I put it? I was still kind of like shy. I'm actually, by nature, I'm a very shy person. I've sort of been conditioned to be a little more outgoing just because I've been around people for so long, and but I know that I have a gift, and that it's meant to be shared. It's not meant to be hoarded, and 100%. There's a lot of things that I want to do and change. So, you know, it was very inspiring to see, like, you know, people just doing their thing, whether it be rapping, singing, whatever, playing an instrument, a poem. And a couple years later, and you know, or over the years, really, like the local artists inspired me to. I'm like, man, I gotta get back to music. You know, like I got who was it? Red Shades, Brandy Blaze, Cake Swag, Oompa.
Okay.
Oh my gosh,
look at her name dropping. Let's go.
Always, you know, because I had
gotta give like credit where credit's due.
Yeah, like I used to what is it? Brandy has a song, There's Only One Me.
Yeah.
I was like,
let's go.
That's right.
Facts.
So it got me through finals a couple times. So I'd gone back to school in 2019, and then I got my associates in digital and social marketing.
Oh, let's go, girl.
But while I was in college, I felt like I was like, I want to do what they're doing, you know, like not to like, you know, what is it? just not simply just to do it, but I'm just like, I really like, I want to be able to inspire people the way that they're inspiring people. And I just sat on it for so long. I was just like, you know what, let's go, you know, because at that point, the last time I had really done anything was in church. Okay. I hadn't really, you know, I would go to open mics and things like that, but I didn't really participate. I would just go and observe and kind of freak out and then leave, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and then actually further back into 2018, I joined a band, your favorite colors.
Let's go.
So okay. That's so shout out Tony, Algo. He was Chico at the time, but Brent Julian, Ben, and then Dan Libby. That, you know, and the band sort of gone a different direction, you know, today. But I really appreciated the time that I had with them, because we were able to, like, I did shows and it wasn't me by myself up there.
Yeah.
So it really kind of warmed me up to getting back out there and performing and just, you know, being in front of an audience live.
Yeah.
Because it's been so long since I had done that. Yeah.
I get that. Yeah. And like, even just to relate it back, like me being a spoken word poet, and you talk about workshop, and I think back to like when I was in high school and I started doing spoken word, and like that motivated me to be able to get into workshop. Mm-hmm. But you know, there's things that happen, there's time that changes things, and like there were some amazing, you know, moments that I had performing, and then there was also things that played into like my self-confidence. And part of me, I feel like there was a time where I like lost my voice, you know what I mean? And I feel like you might be able to resonate with that.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, because it's almost like something or someone or an energy or a mindset or your own thoughts can take something from you that is yours, you know? And even thinking about that, you're kind of like, wow, that's a crazy concept that, like, you know, how does something else take something that's mine? But as you get back into it, I feel like it is almost like a reclaiming of yourself, a reclaiming of confidence. And I know you said like you kind of deal with or you've been a little more timid based on the upbringing through the church. As a woman in the, you know, industry doing what you do you ever deal with self-confidence issues in general today, or is that something that like you've kind of learned to cope with? Just for any other female entrepreneurs and artists listening in, I think sometimes, you know, we are so hard on ourselves that there is this battle with, like I said, self-confidence. So I'm just wondering on your end if you ever had dealt with that, if you deal with it today, or if you have any tips on, you know, how not to get into that mindset.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think I have to give a shout out to my mom, because she was really good about not letting people like comment, because I know a lot of it has to do with, you know, for women, sometimes a lot of it's like how we look, right?
It's all like physical based.
Yeah, especially, you know, in music or in the performance space of like, you know, sex sells, whatever, which is, I mean, that's valid. It's, you know, it's true, but
that can also be changed.
It can be changed, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I've been really curious to kind of like, I like to like poke the bear, you know? Yeah. I'm an instigator, so I just
for sure.
But like an instigator for change, you know, not a problematic one.
Yeah.
So I intentionally, I won't wear makeup, or like I won't do my eyebrows, or I have this thing with like, and I'm 100% like I've made TikToks about it, like I really don't. So there's this like hormonal thing with like, I have these little hairs that pop up right here and like on my neck, whatever. Yeah. And it all started when I had kids, honestly. Like, and it's
that's like, very common.
It's so
like
common.
These are the things that we have. I haven't even had kids, and I have chin hairs that come out sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
You feel me? Yeah.
We're not perfect just because we're women.
Exactly.
Like we shave, we do what we have to do to look good, or we don't. And this is how we should be able to naturally be who we are.
Yeah.
But it is that that dual edge expectation.
Right.
I feel like.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'll do stuff on purpose just to see like, I don't know. It's
Yeah, like test the waters
test the
almost.
waters, right?
Yeah.
Just to see like
How will people
how's
react to
gonna
me?
react? Yeah, or I'll just like I'll go to an event. I'm like I'm going in t-shirt and jeans,
Yeah.
and I'll look and I'm just like I see how people receive me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like I take note of it. You know, I don't let it determine how I feel about that person, whatever. But it's just an interesting observation that I make as far as like. But if I notice that if I dress a certain way, like, you know, if I wear something like this, for example, like a little more like, you know, showing off a little more skin and like, you know, I'm a little more like feminine, whatever, right?
Right.
I'll have way more attention, way more eyes on me. And it's very interesting. And it's, I think that I've played around with this a little bit just because I know that I'm not concerned with my talent or my crafts because I know that that's there, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like these sort of issues that always pop up as far as like right confidence, appearance, and I think that this day and age, right, on like especially like with social media and
just gonna bring that up.
Back in the day when you're reading a magazine and you see all these, or even now, right, you see all these airbrushed like
for sure
really nice whatever, and it's like, dude, like women have cellulite, they have stretch marks and all types of like, you just like bring back natural bodies, like what are we what are we doing, who are we fooling, right? Because that's not real. Just keep it real because people are going to be able to see through that anyways. I think that we've been conditioned to just accept that fake image for whatever reason. And I can understand like, okay, you got retouched photos because they look better, high definition, whatever. But I want to keep poking the bear, like to like keeping it human, right? Keeping the artistry and that confidence part, right? We're all still human, having a human, or actually we're spiritual beings having this like human experience here, right? For the time being. And I just don't, I don't know. I don't think that, like looks will fade, looks always fade. It's like, what's in here, like that inner work, that self-work, self-care, journaling, right? Like, who are you when no one's looking? Right. That's where your confidence grows. It's not, it's not something that you can simply imitate from someone else or take from someone else. Confidence is yours and yours alone.
100%.
No one can take it from you. And that's why I really have been so grateful for that, because I could be having the worst day ever and no one would know.
Exactly.
No one would ever know because I just, my people, whatever, who I vent to, like, you always have to have your people, like,
Facts.
don't keep that shit inside, find a trusted, therapist or, confidant, friend, colleague to be able to, chop it up with and everything and share that space with. But just generally speaking, I feel like, confidence is built in private, I feel,
100%. It is. And it's those conversations you have when you're alone, those conversations you have with the universe, with yourself, the self-care and the self-love that you give yourself that then grows like vines, out of your essence, out of your aura, out of your words, out of your mouth, to then help other people to find that. And I think it's like, tastemakers, change makers, people like you, like me, when we speak, those words carry intention and meaning. And, when you're putting out your art and when you're really putting your full purpose into your art, it's 100% what you just said. The looks will fade, the looks will go, the physical body will decay, but what we're putting out through our art, through our energy, through our mind, through our vocals, literally and physically, will stay. And that's timeless, There's trending and then there's timeless. And it's like, at the end of the day, which one do you want to be? What do you want to be remembered for? How, dope your body was and all the clothes that you had on it? Or when you're stripped down to your bare body on your last day, like, what were the words that you left? You know what I mean? I'm going to give myself a little... Hey. Oh, your energy is so great. I just love it. I love it.
Fire.
And just speaking on like the deeper part of us and in the essence, right? And who we are as people. So there's something, you know, that I've been put onto that's called the crooked mountain of opportunity. And we all have our own crooked mountain of opportunity. And what that really looks like is when you're scaling, you know, uphill. But if it's a crooked mountain, you can't climb straight, right? You can't hike it all the way to the top without slipping, without falling. You have to go around the curves, the bumps, the rocks, everything in between. And when you reach the top of that crooked mountain, opposed to if you were going up a straight mountain, you know, how successful is that feeling when you get to the top, when you reach the top of that climb and you look down at everything that's broken, everything that's fallen, and you're still there, standing at the top, able to become that next level of yourself, you know? And I'm just wondering, like, through your crooked mountain of opportunity, how do you feel like you deal with when you've gone over when you've been climbing and you've been slipping, and, you know, when you were in church in that abusive relationship, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, people's words, hands will hold you down, you know? And when you've been climbing through those words, through those hands, through those ups and downs, what is it, soul, that pushes you through at the end of the day? Like, is it just, you know, your spirituality, your belief? Is it a soul purpose? What do you feel like through, you know, those really low lows, was it that got you to keep pushing through? I know that's a deep ass question, so I'm sorry I just threw that on you, but
it's no, it's a beautiful question, actually, because that's something that I thought about in those moments where I'm just like I just really feel like,
yeah,
I don't know if I can make it.
We all want to give it up. Yeah. Right, yeah. There's some days where like, yo, I can't get out of bed. Like, yes. And you have 3 living beings on top of it that you take care of. So, yes. I just got to give you a shout out for that, because on top of everything else we're talking about, you're also a mother. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, do you have any things on those low days that have kept you pushing through?
Absolutely. I mean, I think number one, my kids. Right? That's big. You know, that's like the top spot. And within that, right, sort of intertwined in that / close second is the purpose, right? So
let's go.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I know that whatever I'm supposed to be doing and whatever I need to be doing and whatever I am doing, working towards daily, is much bigger than me. It's much bigger than, you know, the person next to me that for some reason is giving me an attitude, but you know what, maybe they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just
veer our energy,
just gonna sashay this way, you know.
Sashay this way, I love that.
And usually it is that, you know, it's like, oh, but yeah, it's that purpose, you know, that purpose is just like, you know, and then that's really like a big, like, one of my mantras is, you know, very, very popular, right? Day by day, you know. But yeah, just knowing that with everything I do, and I talk about this when I'm like organizing or teaching or even just talking to my little ones, whoever I'm addressing, I try to emphasize, or I do emphasize, the importance of community, you know. Yes. And that's something that, ironically, I was taught through the church. There's a lot of biblical things that I carry with me today.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they're principles that transcend any particular, like, specific religion or teaching or doctrine, right?
Yeah.
It's just being a decent human being.
Mm-hmm.
And where, you know, Jesus gave the 2 greatest commandments was to love the Lord your God, and then to love your neighbor as yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And that second one really was kind of confusing at first, because we were taught to not love ourselves.
Correct. We
were taught, oh, if you're loving of yourself, then you're a sinner, you're this, you're that, you're this. But on the contrary, actually, loving yourself is so important, because if you don't love yourself, how are you going to love everybody else?
100%.
So,
Yo, she's breaking down the Bible today. We getting prophetic messages today. But you just like took the words out of my mouth, because I was literally thinking as you said that. But if you hate yourself, right, and you're spewing hate, and you don't love who you even are, you can't go to your neighbor and tell them to love you, love themselves, love anyone. But you have to, you have to spark that flame. You have to ignite that match within yourself of self-love, and then light that field on fire of everybody else feeling the love around you. And that's what builds community, the love of appreciating your neighbor. And I think in today's day and age, with social media and everything else, sprinkled in between, there's a lot of competition opposed to, connection or community. And even within like the space you're in, even though it's artists supporting artists and a lot of creativity collectives, a lot of community-based things, I'm sure that you also have seen that struggle side of competition versus creativity. And when we talked about like discernment or negative energy versus somebody who really believes in you and puts you up. And I think even when we're, integrated into community, you still have to be wary of the energies you're around, because sometimes community is false community. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't like to talk about that because it seems negative, but on the contrary, it's honest and it's true and it's aware. And when you are able to find your true village, the people, I call it your second family, because, you're born to a family, you have to be, we wouldn't be here without it. But that's not my chosen family. The chosen family is the people that I want to surround myself with, who feel the vibes, who feel those, exactly what we're talking about, and want to uplift the people around them. Do you ever feel like you've dealt like competitively in a space? Like, do you feel like there's competition sometimes in the spaces that you run in? And if so, how do you kind of sashay away from that type?
Well,
let me take a quick little sip of my champagne.
That's interesting, because anytime I felt anything that has felt remotely close to competition, it's usually been an environment where the collective, if you will, is already exploiting artists.
Oof. Oh my God. Can you say that again? Wow.
Well. Yeah, no, because let's get into it. Artists get exploited every day.
Yes.
I think that straight up. And I'm not talking about the artists that have been doing this for like, let's say 5 to 10 years. I'm talking about like the artists that just started maybe within the last like 2-3 years or so, right? They barely have 5 years under their belt. That whether that be performing live or recording, whatever, whatever the case may be. Because I started performing when I was 6 years old. Wow. That's the first time I held a mic. I was 6 years old. And then, and it's been on and popping since then. What I used to do was I used to sit at home and I used to practice with they called pistas in Spanish. So it would be just the instrumentals on the cassette tape. Yeah. I would play it over and over, rewind, go right back. I'm telling my age right now, but it's all good.
You looking good for your age, girl. So
the nostalgia is real. You know what I mean? Like something about having like physical media is just love it. Can't get that with streaming
for sure.
But yeah, that's where I honed those skills of performing live, right? And there's a lot of emerging artists now, and like no shade, whatever, but they use backing vocals, so you can't really hear what they're saying and stuff like that. So they're still developing that stage presence, that, live performance, like how to use the space and so forth. And so you have that, and then you have the artists that have been doing this for a while. And I feel like I've seen a couple times where like just people who should know better have like tried to like turn people against each other, whether it be through gossip or like maybe like they'll offer the opportunity to one artist, but then the artist that they know they're beefing with is offered that same opportunity instead, and then it's just like making waves for no reason. But I've never felt like, I feel like anytime if I feel weird somewhere, I'm out. I don't wait.
Period.
I don't wait for anything to pop off. I don't wait for any. The second I'm just like, if the energy's weird, or even if I hear something like about myself, if I don't like it, I'm just like, oh,
yeah,
I will get out of your way, sir.
So I would say you trust your intuition then.
Very much, yeah.
So your intuition, you lean heavy on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to. I definitely try to. It's there have been moments where I have not, and I'm just like, man, you know. So that's why now I'm like, no, I gotta listen to that. Like, you know, that intuition really rarely misses. It rarely misses. And I would say, like, with the competition thing, like, to any artist, like, whoever's watching this, right? If you ever feel like it's competition, just grab a mirror. That's the only person that you should be competing with. That is the only person you should be competing with. Because at the top, everybody's collaborating. You know what I mean? At the top, like, everybody's in their own lane, they're doing their own thing, they're making their own way, and sort of just, you know, aligning with other people, like-minded individuals, like-minded creatives. There is no competition at the top. Not to be like, you know, not to be hierarchical with the shit, but essentially, you know, it's a measure of success. Is that, like, are you, you know, and then I think it's with hip hop too, it can get a little weird, because, you know, there's the whole concept of, like, you know, you being the best, etc. That's a whole different, you know, we're not talking about that. It's just talking about, like, you know, locally how it stands right now when it comes to, like, shows and different things like that. Also too, I think that and this is an issue that's come up before, like, there's a lot of shows sometimes that happen on the same day.
For sure. And
there's no, like, and I
generalized scheduling, like, where everyone can see.
Yeah, there's no,
like, I feel like everyone wants to be exclusive. And then it's like, well, we can't be exclusive if you're doing it on the same day as 10 other people, you know?
And then you have to choose, and then most people choose based on where they're located, like, geographically. Correct. What makes sense for them. You know, if someone's in, like, there's a show in JP, and I have a show in Beverly, and then, you know, I don't expect my friend in Cambridge to come out to Beverly. Like, they're gonna go to JP.
For sure.
It's just, it is what it is, you know? And I don't get mad at that, because I don't, the same, like, and I have to keep this in mind too, like, you perform the same way that you perform for 1,000, you have to perform for 1.
Yes, exactly.
It's not the quantity, it's the quality of what you're bringing. You know what I mean? Because that's, you putting it out there into the universe. Just be consistent. Just keep it going. And, you know, you'll see that 1,000, 100,000 crowd. That's what I'm waiting on, you know? So
you'll see that tenfold. What you put out, you'll get tenfold.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when you speak it into existence, you'll manifest that energy to come.
Yeah.
And thank you for calling that out, because it's so true. And I just want to bring up, I'm kind of looping back to the beginning of our conversation, but when we first talked about church, you brought up, and I was trying to remember it almost our whole, since we've been talking, like, I kept going back, and I was like, nah, Jessie, let it go, because, like, you can't remember it. And then you just brought it back up. So you talked about the measurement of success.
Oh, yeah.
And when you were in church, the measurement of success was for you to have a husband, have a family, have kids, you know, have that.
Yeah.
What is your current measurement of success?
My current measure of success is to get out of poverty. Yeah, to be completely self-sufficient, you know, where I don't have to really, because I have Section 8.
You're so real. Yeah.
I'll say it. Like,
put it on the table.
I have Section 8.
Let's go.
Because I'm a single mom and it's expensive. Okay.
Facts.
And the fact that I got it by I mean, nothing's by coincidence or by chance. The universe was like, here you go, because I know you're gonna need that in the future. Because when I did get it at the time, what was it? Oh, they were switching owners. The place that I was living was switching owners or whatever. So they basically gave out Section 8 to whoever was eligible.
Wow.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because these wait lists are 15, 20, which I was like, I kind of don't want to take it. But I know I need it, you know? And it's just like, dang, how come they can't do this for everybody else? But yeah, I just, it's just so, like, it's helpful, but you get to this certain threshold that, you know, you don't need other things other forms of assistance you're no longer eligible for. But with like Section 8, because it's, rent is probably, is the highest, one of the highest living expenses that exists.
Definitely.
It's still necessary. But it's just like, there's situations where I'm just like, I mean, I had to go to the voucher, my caseworker, basically, I had to go back and forth like twice a week for the last couple of weeks. It's such a time suck, especially like
free isn't free.
Free is not free.
No.
It's like it's if you're whatever you're getting for free, you're putting time into that, and it's like I'm taking time off the job that you guys basically encouraged me to get, but I'm just like, now I'm like, kind of all over the place as far as like workflow, and like being able to get into that zone is being interrupted by having to like run back and forth and sign paperwork and do all this stuff.
Exactly.
And then unfortunately, if, and this happened recently too, where I was like, hey, I need more time to do this other thing for these documents. And unfortunately, I wasn't given the same grace. They're like, well, if you don't have these documents in by this date, we're going to get you, you're going to have to go, we're going to have to start the process for termination, which doesn't mean that I'll lose my voucher, but I'll have to have a hearing and this and that, but that's more time that I have to take from work. I have to take PTO. I have to figure out, schedules with children, etc.
Yeah. Well, it's like a dog chasing its tail.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like I think when we talked about it on the phone, like we talked about destigmatization of Section 8, because it's like, there's this overarching negative view on it for some reason. But what you're saying, the time, the effort that you have to put into it, the steps that you have to take, the motions, and while on top of it, working a job, having kids you're taking care of, and then trying to make these meetings to make the deadlines just so you can be receiving money for basic needs.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I think it's so important, for you to even be able to represent that. Like, I'm out here doing all these shows, doing all this and that. Look at the sacrifice I put in. Look at the time, the energy, the effort, everything you have to balance. And like, that's another question I kind of want to get into. And I feel like this is a perfect trajectory, but how do you feel about work-life balance? I know you work a regular job. I know you do the performances on side, which is also a full-time job. Then you have your kids, which is also a full-time job. So physically, literally every day, or mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Yeah. How are you doing that balance for self?
Yeah, that's a great question.
For soul.
I try to, so when it comes to like incorporating my shows, I try to space them out. Yeah. I don't try to because at one point I think I was doing a couple of shows a month and I was like, no, that's not working. Yeah. Number one, my mom sometimes she would, she'll watch the kids for me, or like a neighbor or something, but mom will do it for free, but
neighbor
others
will not.
Right? Yeah. Right. And I don't expect them to, because
for sure.
It's 3 kids. So even if it was 1 kid, it's a lot. So, and not all of the shows that I do are paid either. You know what I mean? And that's why I backed out of doing shows. And I've gravitated towards writing, like applying for grants. And doing things that way. So which also too, Section 8 takes a portion of that. Right. So that's not, it's not just because I get, I have, the MCC grant, it's $5,000. They take 30% of that. So that's already $1,500 gone. Wow. Right. So,
I didn't even know that. That's like a secret tip that I had no idea about. Yeah.
They take anything you make, they take 30%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, it's, I guess, understandable, but in the grand scheme of things, if you consider a person that has their own property, right, or has their own whatever the case may be, they have their own space where they don't have to really worry about Section 8. Yeah. They can take gigs. Right. And no issue, no problem, no sweat. They can stack up, whatever. I can't, So that's another reason why, I want to just get out of this whole situation of having it. But I am grateful. I don't want to sound ungrateful, because it has, there's been time, when I was in school, I would say like if you're a full-time student, Section 8 is very helpful. Because you can even do a work study. And since work study is a federal grant, you don't have to, that money is not like, it's basically untouched. That's yours. You could use it for books, for, technology, whatever you need it for. So that's one of the reasons why too, like I'm looking at, I'm really heavily considering going back to school full time.
Wow.
Just because, I want to get my bachelor's, master's, and, go for that. But we'll see. I have to pace myself because gotta
work-life balance.
Work-life balance.
For sure. We're all people. Like you said earlier, we're spirituals or souls living the human experience. Everything inside of you, the artist inside of you, the artist inside of me, we still have to keep it in a box. We still have to limit it so we're able to physically survive and do these things we have to without losing that internal part of who we are, which is so important.
For sure.
And, I do want to ask you, because we kind of talked about it before we started recording, but Solmaria, which is your God-given name. Could you tell us, I feel like you said you had a little story behind that. So what is your story behind your actual name of Solmaria?
Oh, yeah. So Solmaria was my name. It's my legal name. It's my actual name. And when I was little, I used to just go by Maria. Because, so like anybody that knows me from back in the day, if you ever see me like walking down the street and someone's Maria, it's because they know me from like elementary school to high school. And the reason why I stuck with Maria was because most of my teachers were white, basically. And they couldn't pronounce my name. And it was always a challenge, so I'd be like, it's just Maria. Like, it's just Maria.
Cut the soul.
Right, just take it off. And then as I got older and I got my first job, I think when I was 14, I started working, I worked at the travel agency. That's no longer there, which is crazy. In Macias.
Oh, okay.
What street is that? Oh my gosh, I'm trying to blank. It's where Majors used to be, which is no longer there either. Goodness.
Isn't it wild?
It's so wild.
Now you're extra aging yourself. Damn.
Oh my gosh. But I had that job, and then I started working at Wendy's, and there was 5 Marias in the kitchen. So I was like, oh no. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna use my full name. And where everybody there could pronounce it, I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, no problem. Like, it was, a bunch of, it's just, Dominicans. There was a couple of, there was a lady from Guatemala and Venezuela, and then a couple of Puerto Rican folks that I worked with. So they all knew how to pronounce my name. So it was like, oh, sweet. No problem. And then it just, I got used to it there. And then when I went to college, too, same thing. I just started to embrace it a little bit more. And I think it was just, me, going from, being a kid, into, I have my adult name.
This is me
now. And it's interesting, too, because when I started doing music and stuff, I always get that question. They're like, is that your real name? I'm like, yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Like, thank you.
Yeah. And fitting with the old soul vibes. Old soul, we got our first soul. You already know.
That's crazy.
Hey.
I love it.
I love that.
Yes.
And second question, I just had 2 things I wanted to ask, and that was the first.
Oh, yeah.
The butterflies. The vibes with the butterflies. You got the glasses, you got the ring, you blinging out with your butterflies. And I know the glasses is kind of something that you do when you perform. You wear them, it looks like a lot.
Yeah.
What is that for you? What is the meaning kind of behind whether it's the glasses, the butterflies, or whatever it may be?
Yeah, so I have a couple people that they call me Mariposa. I haven't put it out there much, but
That's cute.
It's because of we talked about it earlier, where I've done this 180 from and then this is I won't give away too much. I'm working on a memoir. I don't want to spill the beans yet.
She said, I don't want to give away too much. I'm working on a memoir. Oh, okay.
Little preview.
Little side note.
Breadcrumbs.
Love that.
Yeah, and it's part of, a metamorphosis, right, with the butterfly. And, oh, man, who was it? yeah, so just going from, I started off as, a little caterpillar. I had, spent my time on chrysalis, and now when I emerged, right?
Yeah.
Basically, like, a whole new person.
For sure.
Like, not to sound, I feel like that sounds weird. Like,
Like, I'm still me.
I'm still
a
me,
better version of you.
But like, like Solmaria 2.0 emerged from that.
A transmutation.
Yeah.
You literally transformed.
Legit.
Yeah.
The way that I think, the way that I see the world, like my worldview, the way that I talk to people, the way that I even listen to people, right? Because you can talk all day, but like if you're not, it's like, are you really understanding what's going on? Like sometimes you just gotta like, God gave us, or like whoever put us here, right, gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should do more listening than we do talking.
That's so fire.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. So I really feel like, it's butterflies, right? They have their metamorphosis. So it's about transformation. It's about reinventing yourself, right? I want to inspire people to, if you feel like you're maybe not going down the right path, just like I was many times, what happened with the church upbringing and, my education, right? You can always pivot and start over, and have your own metamorphosis. Woo! So yeah.
I'm sorry, it's so facts, and I just have to say to anybody listening in, it is never too late to reclaim your authentic self. It's never too late to realize who that true self is and let it shine. We all have a purpose for a reason. Whether you know that purpose now or you're in your way to finding it, I think purpose is something that we relearn and unlearn every day just to get better at what that purpose is. So thank you so much, Soul, for sharing that. Like all the gems that you have continued to drop today through, well, one, through your music, but two, here in conversation, communicating and being authentically open in yourself and unashamed and unapologetic, because that's really at the end of the day all that we can be. Like, we only have a certain amount of time on this physical plane. And even here right now, like you're taking moments of your physical life, your physical time that you can never get back and spending it talking to me. And like, I'm so grateful for that. But people don't realize how short and how valuable that time is. Every move that you make, everything you do, you're putting your energy towards whatever that next step is, whatever that growth is. And I feel like for anyone listening in, just be conscious of the steps that you're making, the intentions you're taking, the words that you're speaking, how much you're listening. Because what you just said right there, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, not 2 mouths and 1 ear. You know what I mean? And that shit hits so close to home because it's just facts. It's just facts. And without processing and getting to know community, getting to know other people's stories, I think, that's what plays into us finding our purpose, communicating with others, acknowledging others, learning from others and from self. But it has to be a balance of both, So thank you so much again for sharing that. You're just so dope. Your energy is transcending across these chairs. I feel it. I just want to give you a shout out for all the music that you've released, everything that you've dropped. I know you have a recent, is it an EP, an album? It's like 3 songs.
So it's basically, it was a maxi single, essentially.
Okay.
I have a couple of songs on there so I have Cautionary Tale.
Yes.
And then there's the performance mix, which I told you back in the day that I used to go and listen to like the instrumental versions of songs and like practice with the song.
Yeah.
That was why that was on there like that.
Okay.
Because I wanted people to sort of have that same experience. So it was just
very
like,
cool.
Yeah, it was very like sort of a full circle moment for me. And then I threw Abducted on there sort of as a bonus track because I was told that I shouldn't rap. So then I rapped.
Hey! Yo, that's so great. Yeah. Yo, that's so great. Yeah. I was told I shouldn't be a painter. But I stopped painting for a little bit. But then I started again. So you already know, like, when somebody tells you you can't do something,
do it.
That's just a challenge for you to become even better within yourself, to do it more, to put extra energy towards it. And, you know, the people who say those things to us is because they're not fulfilled within themselves. You know, what did we say earlier? When you're not happy, you know, when you're not loving self, how can you love the neighbor? If you're not happy with self, how can you give happiness to others? You just drain that energy.
That's right.
You know,
and out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So whatever's in there, like if it's hate or lack of love, right? Because if there's no love, then what's there, right?
Exactly.
Right? So that's
some vacancy.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. The vacancy be crazy.
Yeah, the vacancy be crazy. You gotta fill that shit. You know, and off of just our conversation, everything like that, what is your feeling about auras and energy and like people taking energy or giving energy, you draining your own energy or refilling your own? Is that something that, like you talked about music, like experiencing it? Do you ever experience this energy transfer between you and artists you connect with, or relationships or individuals?
It's so crazy because I was just thinking about this on Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, because so where do I begin? All right, so with music, right? So essentially, not in a religious sense, right? But when you're performing, you're basically, I see it as ministry, right? You're ministering to people because they may come to that place. They might be gathering in that place. They might be feeling, you know, sad or overwhelmed or like, you know, all of these feelings that we as people, as souls, right, we feel sometimes. It's just so heavy. And you can actually, we mentioned earlier, discernment, right? When you walk into a space, you know, like, if you're a discerning person, if you have discernment, you will feel what's in the atmosphere. You already know what's moving, and it's like being able to go in there, perform, do your thing, motivate the people essentially, and being able to lift that. It has to like that energy has to like go somewhere, right? And sometimes, as you know, as they say, like fill your cup. When you're performing, you're basically you're like pouring your cup out to these people, right? And you got to make sure that you're not left with an empty cup, right? Or that if you do that, whatever, you go home, you rest, recharge, fill that cup back up. But as far as like energy transferring and things like that, that's deep, because I used to be more, I think I was more out like with the people and like, you know, hugging and this and that or whatever. And I'm still like, I'm by nature, I'm a hugger. Like I'm a mom,
Girl,
you know,
same.
but like, you know, but I realized too at times, like it can be very draining, you know, if you give like access to so many people and you're doing all these things, right? You have to keep in mind, right? There's everything spiritual to me anyway, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. So just being mindful of that, right? Of that I do believe that there's a thing called transference of spirit.
Yes.
I do believe in that. I think that it's important to like stay covered in your own, like whether that be through like meditation, prayer, not necessarily from a religious standpoint, but just recognizing, okay, this is off. I don't like that. Let's change the narrative here. Sure. You know, let's shift it. Let me go for a run, or let me do this thing. Let me do some self-care, something that was gonna fill me back up again or recharge me, right? 100%. Just always being mindful of that. Yeah. Definitely always being mindful of that. Yeah. Because I can't be left on empty. Right. For myself, for my babies, you know.
And nobody should be, you know what I mean? And nobody, it's exactly like you said. And I'm glad that you keep bringing it up, because I think when people listen in and we start talking about people who've gone through church hurt or experiences that leave a negative feeling from religion, right? They automatically assume, oh, this person's religious. Like, let me shut this off. Right. Like, we're talking about the difference between religion and spirituality. Right. every single one of us is spiritual.
Yeah.
The fact that you were born, you don't know how, you don't know why, you don't know the purpose, you're on this planet floating in space, came from another human being to be produced to be this being that you are here, and then live a life to try to figure out whatever that is before you move on from this life. That is spiritual. You know what I'm saying? We are all graced with a spiritual energy on this physical plane.
Yes.
And it's what you do with that spiritual energy that transcends into the physical plane. And the transfer is huge, and being just aware of what you're taking in and what you're giving off is even bigger. And so anybody who, you know, if you're dealing with a lot of negative emotions and you're constantly like going out and you're with a group of friends, or you're this, and this, and you're never taking the time to stop and feel your own self, feel your own energy, your own heart, feel, you know, being burnt out is real, being exhausted spiritually, being low battery, low energy, drained. Not only your phone gets low battery, I know you're on that shit all the time, but that's not the only thing. We get drained, and we really need to be conscious of filling ourselves back up. So thank you for just vibing and for feeling that energy as well. And we are getting close to wrapping up. I do have just a few more questions for you, if you're interested.
Of course.
Let's go. But one that I wanted to touch upon that you kind of had mentioned throughout our conversation is the concept of social media, the media where we have to be social. And, you know, I know your age. Not everyone knows your age, but I know you didn't grow up with a phone in your hands, that it got into your hands later in life.
Yeah.
And then from transition from church to music, and then when you get social media and you're a musician or you're an artist, you know, there's something that comes with it where it's like promotion and marketing and all of that good stuff that you have to do on there. So I'm kind of just wondering, like, your relationship with the media of social, and how you kind of feel that, or how you balance that within your artistic life, your family life, and like everything else you fucking do.
Yeah, no, I love that. So yeah, I mean, I definitely did not grow up with a phone in my hand. Played outside till the streetlights came on, type of upbringing, and yeah. So with social media, and it's interesting because I went to school for this. Right, digital social marketing. So
It's so crazy.
Yeah, I studied it. So I know that it's like, it's all heavily curated, which I have a little, I'm at odds with it sometimes. You know, it's sort of like a love-hate relationship, if you will. But it is beneficial. You do need it as an artist, as far as, you know, promotion and getting your sound out there, but also too, just, we talked about this earlier, being authentic, you know. I go on, mostly on TikTok, I'll just go and rant about, you know, my whatever I'm
gonna have to follow you on TikTok.
whatever I'm annoyed about or frustrated, whatever. I was saying earlier, I have a whole TikTok about me like plucking my chin hairs, you know, and that one actually hit. Like, a lot of women were like, "Oh my gosh, girl, I got my car tweezers," and you know what I'm saying?
Same.
So, yeah, every girl, every now I learned, I'm like, oh shoot, it's true.
Yes.
Every girl has a pair of car tweezers and the whip, probably just to, you know, pluck a hair out, whatever, once in a while. And it's just that, like, I noticed that for a long time, a lot of, you know, you look at the influencer aesthetic where everything is white and beige, and, you know, and all the kids and the mom and the dad are matching and all this, like, really cute stuff. But it's like, that's not real life. And where I sort of attack, my attack on social media is I try to break up the pattern, where I'll be like, this shit's ridiculous, da da da, like, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I try to push more of the message. We talked about purpose, right?
For sure.
I'm big on, you know, talking about things like gentrification or, you know, the in-house community, what's going on in the Middle East, like Free Palestine, you know, just all of these social issues that people sometimes forget about,
Right.
And that's what I really want to use my platform for, is to be authentic and bring up these issues and stuff. And then my music too, it's in there. But I feel like as an artist, we talked about competition earlier. It is competitive because you're competing against the algorithm and whatever, and whatever Instagram decides to be popular that day or whatever.
Right.
And so people aren't gonna necessarily connect. They might not connect with your music immediately, but if they connect with you as a person, or if they appreciate maybe something you said, or something you said maybe inspired them, that could also lead them to engaging with your art. And and I would hope, because most of my songs there's a narrative in there, a lesson, or me ranting, but within there is just like there's a message, and I make sure of each of my songs there's a message,
Yes.
Whether it be self-love or community, or whatever the case may be. But that's how I try to use social media to the best of my ability, and ethically too, right? I don't know, like I the whole like concept I was talking about earlier, that sex sells. I posted a thirst trap once in a while. I'm not gonna lie.
Who doesn't? We have clickbaited here and
Who
there.
doesn't? Like, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get the engagement going.
Right. But it's also the poking the bear thing as well. And like, it's so funny, like being a female, myself, hosting the show, that the show is geared towards motivation.
Yes.
But I've had people in the past literally take my images when I was in season 2, at the top of my season 2 career, getting, good traction, and make a sex page out of my images. And I'm like, oh, did you tap on one episode of the show? You're literally, you just have to be careful of what you're representing.
Yeah.
And even though you could be representing something so authentic, everybody has their own notions, their own mindsets, and misogynisticness is a real thing, and hate is a real thing. And people will take something that is meant for great intention and try to make things bad intention.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to see how we navigate that field and what we come out on the other side of our crooked mountain, and like with you using social media as that tool and having that mindset, you're 100% right, and it's like, all I can do is for anybody listening in who did grow up with their phone in their hands, or is really into social media, or like whatever, just try to be as authentic as possible. Try to realize we're all humans. Whether you want to be the number one influencer in the world, that person's life is not perfect. And when they turn the camera off, they're probably going and crying in their bed. You know what I mean? There's so many things behind the scenes that play into it. Just always representing really who you are. And even I have struggled with that. You get it, digital marketing, digital media, being involved in media. No matter what type of artist you are, you're going to be involved in media either way. So I just appreciate you highlighting how real it is, of that fine line of authentic versus, being another follower, being another influencer, or somebody who, like we said before, could be brainwashed. Because brainwash can come from people around you, church, can come from your phone, can come from the news. But it's up to you to navigate and like you said, discern who the hell you're really supposed to be and your purpose. And, throughout all of those things that we talked about and these things that you've navigated, I personally, part of my story and my purpose has been through mental health and my struggles with anxiety, depression, self-harm, suicidal ideations at a very young age, and being able to kind of flip that switch and turn my weakness into a strength. And as you did with turning your church hurt into a strength of being able to be the artist that you are now unapologetically, have you in return also dealt with any of your own mental health struggles? And if so, is that something like that you still deal with, or something that you cope with? or how do you cope with it if so?
Yeah, no, it's so we have a lot in common.
We really do.
Yeah.
I can feel it.
Yeah, no, everything you said. I depression has been something that I battled with since I was a kid. Really, like, single parent home. My mom actually was clinically depressed for a very long time, and then like not treated because the church was like, oh, medication bad. So that was a thing, and then it's sort of yeah, I had my own struggles with like depression, anxiety. I wrote a letter when I was like in 9th or 10th grade, and I had every intention of taking my own life. I didn't, thank God, still here.
Thank God.
But yeah, it's tough. It's life be life and
You can say that again.
and yeah, and it only gets and a lot of it was just because of the environment. I had I was sexually assaulted when I was 9 years old, and it was by like one of the there was a minister that visited from out of the country, whatever, and he had like an assistant, and the kid was like 17, and yeah, so that happened, and I told my pastor about it, and my mom believed me. My pastor did not believe me, and then like she made us like have this big like dinner, and then we did like this prayer circle. Like I had to like hold hands with this abuser.
That's so
And
traumatic.
then decades later, yeah, absolutely. And then the thing is too is that my pastor at the time was a social worker.
The convolution.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
cannot.
Go figure. So that fucked me up. That fucked me up for a long time. Because I was very
Your
much...
trust must have been
Yeah.
just like ripped. Like,
Yeah, no, and it was crazy because growing up in that space, it's like I wasn't close to my dad's side of the family or my mom's side of the family. Most of my mom's family, either they're in New York or Puerto Rico, or they just don't talk to each other. And then my dad's side of the family, they didn't really, you know what I mean? They were very racist. My mom's Puerto Rican. My grandfather was black, like African heritage, just straight up black, you know. So my mom, she had like textured hair and was like darker, etc. And like, my dad's side of the family had this whole thing where like they didn't even like come around or whatever. It was weird. But so basically my only family was the church. So it was just like, I felt like I just had to deal with it and just be like, oh, well, okay, I guess it's fine, whatever.
Right.
And so I just had to like keep that in, didn't go to therapy, didn't, so yeah. Hella depressed, hella anxious for so long. And then I found out like 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm in my 30s now. And again, I was 9 years old. Just 3 or 4 years ago, come to find out, because my pastor at the time had told me, oh no, he was just tickling you because that's how he plays with the kids at the orphanage. I'm like, he's working with kids? Oh, hell no. And I was just like, no, absolutely not. Like, it was just crazy. And then come to find out, again, 3 or 4 years ago, this lady who, she does, like, missions trips over there, whatever, he got caught. He was...
Still doing that.
He was basically harming all these children for so long. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm like, it could have been stopped, but...
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, very frustrating in that sense. So, yeah, I had a lot of that was a big one. That was a big instance. And then, of course, like the whole like abandonment issues from, my dad wanting to leave and, sort of start his own life, whatever he was doing. It was hard. It was really hard. But being able to, as an adult, and I think it was after I left the church too, is where I started to really, they're like working with Hawk and different organizations. They helped me to like refocus. Even when I went to North Shore Community College too, they have a lot of wellness resources. They have an app now and stuff like that, which is really cool. But they have someone on staff that's essentially a licensed mental health counselor, social worker.
Wow.
And if you need anything like immediate, urgent, you can talk to them. And that was really helpful. And
You got that self-reflection
Yeah.
period finally
Yeah.
that you had needed for the confirmation of like, okay, I'm not crazy, you know. And I just your resilience is so admirable, and like I think this is the reason that I even have this show. Do you know what I mean? People like you, people who will literally share their story unapologetically, just to be like, not everything is as it seems.
Yeah.
The person who was up there that you see performing, it took a long time for that soul to be able to come out of the shell, to be able to shine how it needed to. And I just want to thank you again, because I know it's not easy to share, but it's necessary for us to converse with vulnerable communication so that others know like they're not alone. You know, anybody else who's gone through that struggle, you're not alone, and you can get through it. And, you know, so you're the example of that. So I just want to say shout out to you. Yes. And, you know, like I said, we are kind of wrapping up. I know my producer's like, we're a half hour over. Well, sorry, this is a great conversation. You know, within you, everything that you've been through, do you have any advice for any fellow entrepreneurs, artists, any young women, men, anybody really who's just trying to come up, find themselves as a person through struggle?
Yeah. I think you touched on it a little, which is, you know, it's the whole reason why we're here. And I just want to thank you for starting this platform and this show. And I've seen all the different guests over the years, and just seeing people share their stories. And I think that's so beautiful. Like, that's golden, right? That would be my advice, is to share your story, or share those parts of your story. You know, if you feel comfortable, of course. Sometimes, you know, it may not be time, or may not be the place, right?
Right.
But just recognizing that there's a lot of power in that, because that's your own experience. That's your lived experience. Nobody can take that from you. Nobody can say that you made it up, you know, because I'm like, yo, you really can't make this shit up. You really can't make this shit up. And I know that that's, you know, somebody, even though, you know, no matter where you're at in life, right? Because we always, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, creatives, or people who are always, you know, building our craft, right? Trying to get better. We think that, like, oh man, I can't wait till I'm at this stage or at this point. But then others are looking at us, and they're so inspired by how far we've come. Right. And they have no idea what it took for us to get there, right? So they feel like, I can never do that because I'm XYZ, because I'm going through this and that and the third. So I think there's a lot of power in that, in sharing your story, you know, unapologetically, just being yourself, just showing up, being you, being yourself. And then just, you know, again, sharing that with the world is a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is such a beautiful thing. And that's amazing advice. And any artist listening in, I hope that you take that to heart. And I think, you know, one thing I could just touch upon on that is that, you know, what you said, we always want to get to this spot, right? You want to get to this future. You want to get to this future spot that you're at, where you see this thing in the future and you're like, that's the goal. That's where I want to be. But the funniest thing is, when you get to that spot in the future, you're really in the present. So, you know, the future is always the present, and the present is always the future. And like, when you're always looking forward, you're still in the now. So just appreciate the now, appreciate the moment, appreciate this present, this future, right now, who you are, because you'll never be this again. And the days pass quickly, and life passes quickly. And like, before you know it, you're like, holy shit, I'm whatever age, and I have this many things behind me, and I have that many things under the notch of my belt. But sometimes we don't appreciate when we're actually putting those notches in our belt. So appreciate that time and that energy. And seriously, final question. Thank you so much I think this might be the longest interview of the season almost so far. But the vibes are just vibing. Solmaria, through your beautiful Crooked Mountain of Opportunity story, through everything that you've worked through, worked at, what does it mean to you to have a soul or to have a soul purpose?
SOUL purpose?
SOUL purpose.
Ooh, I like that question. Hold on. All right. Wow. You saved the best for last.
I do. I always do.
Let's go. Yeah, I think to me, having a soul purpose is seeing the bigger picture, you know, looking beyond self. Right? I talked about it. We talked about it a little while ago. That community, right? I think we're all stronger together. The collective is strong. We need each other. You know, you look around at all the things that are going on in the world, and I feel like a lot of that could be resolved, or maybe not immediately, but at the very least addressed. Or, you know, if we just start to just look around us and see like, yo, my brother's struggling, or my sister's struggling, or my sibling is struggling, like how do I help? Even, you know, you might not have $1 to your name, but words of affirmation, or maybe just, again, listening, right? Just being a listening ear, shoulder to cry on, or something, you know? Yeah.
100%. And, you know, through that beautiful physical body you have the shiniest, brightest soul. And your soul purpose is so amazing. And I'm so blessed to have had soul on old soul, so that we could collaborate and connect, and I'll forever be grateful. And, you know, so I just want to give you the opportunity to let the peoples know where they can get more soul energy, where they can find these amazing, extraordinary vibes on your medias of social. If you want to give the people your spots.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure.
So y'all can follow me anywhere. My handle on most social media platforms is OMGITZSOL. And then if you want to hear my music, tap into my Bandcamp. You can reach that at solmaria.bandcamp.com. So thank you.
Hey. And you know, I have to say, you brought this notebook. You told me you're going to write notes the whole time, and I see hardly no notes there.
Oh, I know.
Does that mean it was a good interview or a bad interview?
Girl, it flowed. The flow was flowing. I was like,
the flow was flowing. Girl, thank you so much. I'm going to give you a cheers on that one.
Go.
Hey. But y'all, we're going to end it there with the one and only, oh my God, it's Solmaria. Make sure y'all follow her on all platforms. But besides the platforms, make sure you feel that spiritual energy, that vibe that she put out, the essence of being authentic self, of struggling through your struggle to your greatest success, and never being ashamed of your journey. Let the journey speak for you, and let your words always be authentic and with good intention. And that's all that we can ask for. Build yourself a community, build yourself your soul family, build yourself your soul purpose, and just remember, never give up. Never, ever. Even when somebody tells you to give up, don't give up, because I wouldn't be here right now and Soul wouldn't be here right now if we had decided to give up. And make sure you guys tune in with me for another motivational guest next week on Old Soul, Young World with your host, Jessie Elly.